Welcome to Game Fondue Reviews. In this video we're going to take a look at Tichu. Tichu is a Chinese traditional strategic four-player trick-taking game. We're going to jump right in with the description of the rules, see a few example turns being played, and then I'll be back with some closing remarks.
This is the setup for Tichu in a four-player game. Technically it can be played with other player counts, but the standard game is 4 players, so that's what we're doing here. In traditional Chinese custom, the deck is placed in the center, and starting with the first player, each player takes cards from the deck. They're not dealt out in counterclockwise order. This continues until all the cards are dealt out, and then each player has their own personal hand. And the players are going to sit across from their partners. Tichu is played in teams of 2. But the partners can't really communicate at all, and that's kind of part of the game. So each game turn starts with each player secretly pushing 3 cards, 1 to each of the other players, his partner, and the 2 opponents. And all players have to push all 3 of their cards before they can look at what was given to them. So each player is going to receive 1 card from each other player before the round begins, and there's definitely some strategy that can take place there. After each player gets past their 3 cards, the hands start taking place for the round. Whoever has the Mahjong card is going to go first, and that player starts by playing a hand of cards to the center. But they do not have to play the Mahjong itself. There's a few different types of hands you could play. The simplest is a single card. Next would be a pair of cards, which for instance would be any 2 cards of the same type. Next are sequences of pairs, which are just pairs of cards that are numerically sequential, such as 3, 3, 4, 4. And you can even play more than just 2 at once, such as 5, 5. You can continue 6, 6, and so on. After that is 3 of a kind, which is just 3 cards that are exactly the same. It's kind of an expansion of a pair. And after that is a full house, which is 3 cards of one type, 2 cards of another type. And last is just a sequence of at least 5 cards, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, it can go beyond that, and it can continue to Jack, Queen, etc., but it has to be at least 5. So after a player has led a hand, each other player has the option to play the exact same type of hand in counterclockwise order. So for example, if just a single card, a 6, was played, only single cards of higher value, 7, 8, 9, etc., can be played on top of that. And the hand continues until 3 players have passed in a row, in which case the player who played the highest card takes that trick and puts it in his area. It's important to note that the full house's value is based on whatever the set of 3 is. So even if this was 3 queens and 2 2s and someone else played 3 jacks and 2 kings, even though the kings would be higher than anything else, the 3 queens would still be the most powerful. So then the player who won the trick starts a new one, but if that player has gone out or anything like that, lead is going to pass to the player counterclockwise to him on his right. There are also bombs that can be played on top of any type of cards, but they can be played out of turn. And there's 2 types of bombs. One is a 4 of a kind. So for instance, if you played 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, even if it wasn't your turn, you could put that on top of a group of cards. You can't start, unless it's your turn to lead, you can lead with a bomb, but if it's someone else's turn to lead, you have to wait until they at least play their card to bomb it. But then there's also straight flushes, which are composed of at least 5 cards in the same color that are consecutive. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it can continue 8, 9, and so on. But this bomb can be played on any other type of card or even other bombs. A strength of a bomb is determined by how many cards in it. So 4 of a kind is actually the weakest bomb, but those go in number order. So 4, 4, 4, 4 would beat 3, 3, 3, 3, and so on. But straight flushes have at least 5 cards in them. However, they could have 6, 7, 8, 9, or so on. Number of cards is the first determining factor, so a bomb with more cards in it is always superior to another. But other than that, it's just the number of the cards involved. And you can use bombs to bomb other bombs, but once a player plays a bomb, they've essentially changed the turn order. So it's going to kind of continue from where they go. So let's go over the special cards in this game. The first is the Mahjong. So whoever owns the Mahjong gets to start the first hand, but they don't have to play the Mahjong. And when you do play the Mahjong, you get to make a wish. And what a wish does is you say a number. It can't be any of the special cards. It can be from 2 to ace. And the next player in turn order who can play that card must play that, even if it means using a bomb or a phoenix in a special combination, which we'll explain in a moment. And if a wish isn't fulfilled, it even continues across rounds until somebody fulfills it. And the Mahjong actually counts as a 1, if played by itself, and can be used in straights and things like that. Next is the Hound, and the Hound has absolutely no power whatsoever. You'll see no numbers on this card. And when you play it, it has to essentially lead a trick, and all you're doing is passing control over to your partner. If your partner's out, to the player to counterclockwise to him. But since this doesn't even really count as playing a card, players can't even play a bomb on it. You're just passing the lead to your partner. Next is the Phoenix, which is very powerful. It's essentially a wild card. It can be played in any combination as any card. Remember, if somebody makes a Mahjong wish and you can use the card they wish for by using a Phoenix with it as a wild, then you need to do so. The one special caveat there is a Phoenix cannot be used in a bomb, but whenever you play it as a single card, it outranks the card it's played on by about half. So for instance, if a 6 is led and then someone decides to play their Phoenix, that Phoenix counts as a 6.5, so a 7 would beat it, and so on. The only card it cannot beat is a dragon. It can even count as an ace 0.5 when used as a single card. But if led, it counts as a 1.5, meaning the Mahjong can't ever beat it as a single card. Next is the dragon, which is just the highest individual card. Even a Phoenix on top of an ace cannot beat the dragon, and a Phoenix can't be played over the dragon. The highest individual card cannot be part of any sequence. But if a player wins with the dragon, the trick has to go to an opponent of his or her choice. So you don't get to keep the trick if you win it with the dragon. But the dragon can be bombed. So it's possible for the dragon to be in there and not win. The round ends immediately when only one player has cards left in his hand. So 3 of the players have gone out. At this time, he has to hand over all the cards still in his hand to the opponents and the tricks to the winner. The winner could actually be his partner, but the winner is whoever went out first. And then a scoring round occurs. So each king and 10 is worth 10 points. Each 5 is worth 5 points. Each dragon is worth 25 points. But if you have the Phoenix, that's minus 25 points. So the Phoenix is very powerful, but it's actually worth negative points. Alternatively, if 2 players on a team go out first and second, the round also stops, not when only one player is left with cards. So if a player goes out first and his teammate goes out second, the round immediately ends. There's no scoring, and that team just gets 200 points. There's also some bets you can make to kind of manipulate scoring. The first is a small Tichu. A player can call a small Tichu at any time before playing his first card, which means it could be very late in the round, just before that player has played his first card. So if a player calls the small Tichu and goes out first, his partner can't go out first, has to be him himself, he gets an extra 100 points. However, if he or she doesn't go out first, their team loses 100 points. And partners definitely cannot discuss before one player calls small Tichu. Partners have to be kind of quiet in this game. And the big one is the grand Tichu. And that has to be prior to drawing or being dealt your 9th card from the deck. A player can call their grand Tichu. And if you go out first, same rules, you get 200 points. But if you do not go out first, your team loses 200 points. So the game continues until one team's score meets or exceeds 1,000. If somehow the teams tie above 1,000, you keep going until there's one winner above 1,000. Let's get going with this playthrough. So first thing each player does in each round is pass 3 cards face down each other player. We're going to do that. Now that each player has 3 cards face down in front of them and they've passed their own 3 cards, they get to take these cards to their hand. And he's got a hound, he's got a dragon, must be from his partner, and so on. Now the player who holds the Mahjong gets to go first. And he's actually going to go first by leading that Mahjong. So he plays it as a 1, a single card. So now only single cards can be played, and he gets to make a wish. He wishes for an 8, meaning the next player in turn order who can play an 8 must play an 8. So it's this player's turn, and he actually has an 8, so he has to play it. The alternative would be to bomb out of turn, and anybody can bomb now at any point if they have a bomb, and that'll just alter the turn order a little bit. So it continues to this player, and he can play a single card higher than 8 if he chooses to do so. He decides he's going to jump on up to a queen. Now to this player, he can play a king or an ace or that dragon that he has. But he decides to pass for right now. So it comes back to this player, and same situation really. He can continue or stop. He decides he is going to play a king, and this player down here is going to throw out the ace. So now the only things that can beat an ace are that dragon or a phoenix. This player decides to pass. This player passes, and this player has the Phoenix, but he says, you know what, I'm going to pass. So this player wins the trick, takes all the cards, and then starts the next one. It's a little later in the round, and this player just won a trick, so he's going to start us off with a sequence pairs of 3, 3, 4, 4. This player is a little distraught, but he's going to pass. This guy happily throws out 6, 6, 7, 7. It's now this player's turn, but this player has decided he's going to bomb himself with 4 9s. Unfortunately, this player also has a bomb, but it's 4 5s, which is not strong enough to overtake that bomb. But this player over here can't allow this player to go again because he only has 1 card left. So he plays a bomb on top of that bomb. After players are given a moment to decide if they play a bomb or not, this player is going to take the trick because no one else has a bomb that they're going to play on top of that. So he takes it and he starts a new one, but he's now kind of afraid because this guy has one card left here. So this player leads by playing set of 3 6s using the Phoenix as a wild. This player has to pass because he can't do anything. This player also passes, but this player bests it with 3 queens. Now, even though it's this guy's turn, this guy bombs with 4 5s and essentially ends the trick because nobody can play a bomb on top of that. He takes the group, and then to start his trick, he's going to pass the lead to his partner with the dog card. So the dog card is just kind of out, and then he starts with an 8. So this player has gone out, but this particular trick continues, but he is the winner. So then if forward passes, this guy's going to throw out the ace, but this guy decides it's time to use the dragon. So he has to choose one of the other 2 players, the opponents, to give the dragon trick to. It doesn't really make a difference which one, so he does so. So now it's this player's turn because he won the last trick. He's going to lead this one with a king. This player cannot beat the king with a single card, so he wins the trick and he starts a new one. Now, this trick immediately ends, even though this player could still best it with an 8. He wins it and he gets the card. The player that's left still has these cards in his hand, so he has to give them to the opponents. But he gets to give his tricks to the winner, which is actually his partner. So now a scoring round begins because this round is done. So now to calculate the scores, each king and 10 is worth 10 points each. So this player got 10, 20, 30, 40 points for his team, and this player finishes off with 50. So this team here would score 50 points. This guy gets 10, 20, 30, and then each 5 is worth 5 points each. So 40, 50, but then he loses 25, but then he gains 25 because he has both the Phoenix and the Dragon. So both teams at this point have 50 points. So when we shuffle up, and another round begins. Game goes to 1,000 points.
Like chess, Tichu is known as a lifestyle game, which means some people just play it for their whole lives and they absolutely master it. I am no Tichu master, but I do enjoy the game. It's definitely fun to play with people of an equal skill level, so the game is much more competitive and your partner has some idea what they're doing. It can be a little frustrating if your partner's, really dragging your team down because your scores do come together, but it is a good, very strategic game that some people devote an enormous amount of time to. There's also all kinds of online locations where you can play and tournaments and things of that nature. It's a real strong, solid trick-taking game. It's incredibly highly regarded, so if this looks like it's a fun one to you, or you play games like Bridge or other things like that, I think this is probably one that you'd like quite a bit. So that's Tichu. Check it out.